Hello, viewer, and welcome to Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live. And here on Spotlight, we always do our very best to bring to you subjects that are important and helpful for us as we go on with our daily lives. And in the last few weeks, we've been having a series that is sponsored by the Bible Society of Kenya, and we're talking about trauma healing. And thank you for all your wonderful responses for all the programs that we have been carrying out here. A lot of feedback on how this is impacting your wellness, and that's fantastic. So keep responding to us, and we will again on this edition of Spotlight be engaging the question, how can wounds of our hearts be healed? How can wounds of our hearts be healed? Now, I'm sure when you hear that, something wells up in your memory, something wells up in your spirit, a wound that you have had, either that it's ongoing, it's still festering, or a wound that you had that was healed. But here we are. All of us have particular wounds that would want healed. And we are so glad to have with us wonderful persons from the Bible Society of Kenya. Happy to have Reverend Dedan Kamau. Welcome to Spotlight.
Thank you very much.
I hope also very glad to have again with us Gladys Kibui, who again has been with us here, give us wonderful insights. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And both of these are quite very conversant with the area of trauma healing. And again, engage us on our social media pages. We'll be glad to hear what you have to say. All right, how can wounds of the heart be healed? Big question, right? Big question. Let's start with you, Gladys. First, just to tell us, what's a wound of the heart?
Thank you so much. A wound of the heart, we want to define it as when you are overwhelmed by feelings or emotions. For example, you have gone through such occurrences like rape, like death, like the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, and many such big issues. But you don't have to go through those big issues. You can also go through the small issues, like you raise up your hand in class, then you give a long answer, and then you feel that shame. And that one is a wound of the heart. It can create a wound of the heart. In the Bible, you can check in your mother tongue. You can read from Psalm 109, verse 22. David was saying, I'm deeply wounded to the core of the heart. And when we are defining wound of the heart, we say that when those bad things, those bad experiences come over us, you can get that wound of the heart. But there are sometimes those things can occur, but you don't get a wound of the heart. For example, if you lose your 120-year-old grandparent who has been ailing for the whole year, and at the end of the year he dies, you will not get a wound of the heart. Otherwise, if every time you experience those bad experiences, you are likely to get a wound of the heart.
Okay. It's interesting how when we walk through life, life's experiences have a capacity to wound us. Would you have something to say more, Reverend, about a wound of the heart?
Yeah, I would want to add and say that these wounds are there and they're happening every day to all of us because they're just the normal things that we go through. As Gladys has said, you know, disappointments, there are relationships between men and women, boys and girls, and we tend to hurt one another every day. So this is what we are calling the wounds of the heart. They hurt us. They hurt our feelings. They hurt our emotions. And we need to take care of them.
Okay.
Yes.
And just staying with you again, just wanting to know also how the wound of the heart would be like a physical wound.
Ah, yes. That's a good question. We are talking about a wound. And I know all of us know what a wound is. A wound, in Kiswahili we say kidonda, right? So a wound of the heart is that emotion that we have experienced in our hearts, in our emotions. And we are comparing it with that physical wound. when maybe you cut yourself, you're digging and you cut yourself with a panga, you are in an accident, you are wounded all through. So we compare that, and there are some few things that we can compare between what is physical and what is, the wound of the heart. So like number one, we can say that a wound of the heart, a physical wound is visible, right? If I injure my knee, if I get cut, you will see it. So a wound is visible. And to compare it with that of the heart is that a wound of the heart may not be actually visible. You may not be able to see that this person is wounded in this way. But of course, there are ways that it is going to manifest itself. If you're keen enough, you're able to see that this person is wounded. So we have said that a physical wound is visible. You can't see it. I know you have many wounds. You've gone through life. You've fallen as a young boy and even as a grown-up. And we can see those wounds. So it is visible. But the one of the heart is not visible. But there are some things that will make you know that this person is wounded. So that's one of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there some ways also that you would compare, Gladys, other ways that you can compare the wound of the heart with a physical wound? Because sometimes we think the wounds of the heart are maybe different, and sometimes we think the physical wounds are maybe too open, too sometimes very difficult to look at and attend to. Maybe you can again also give us some aspects where you see the wound of the heart is like the wound of the body.
Thank you. Yes. Apart from feasibility and the invisibility, the rest of the comparison that we would want to give to our viewers, it is that it is much more like the physical wound than there is differences. For example, a heart wound is as painful as a physical wound, and it needs to be treated with care. So a person who is wounded on the inside, you cannot go scolding them, you cannot go ignoring them, you cannot go stepping on them, adding, as we say, adding salt onto injury. You cannot do that. So again, just like the physical wound that you have to clean when you go to the doctor, the first thing they do is to clean it before they start stitching or even applying the medicine. It is the same as the heart wound. For the heart wound, whatever sin is in the heart is on the inside of that person. Whatever guilt is in that person. Whatever pain, shame, anger, bitterness that is in that person has to come out so that that wound can heal. It means that sin must be confessed and the pain must be expressed for the wound to heal.
Okay.
And the third similarity is that if one pretends that the wound is healed, the physical wound is healed, and you continue living as though you don't have a wound, what happens is that it becomes worse. It is the same with a heart wound. If you pretend that you do not have any problem, you live in denial, I am okay, and everything is all right. What happens is that it will get worse. How does a heart wound get worse? If you are just angry with, for example, you are angry with your father, and you grow ignoring that you don't have such a problem with your father, and you get into marriage, you'll be responding to your husband and every male figure in your life, including your father-in-law. And if you get sons, you treat them in the same way. You respond to them and to their requests and to their relationships with you the same way you responded to your father. So they are the same in that way.
Okay.
That maybe difference that I would want to put forth is that just like the physical wound, if it is left to just stay there, this time you are not ignoring. You are simply not treating it right. And it is left there to stay, and then we say that time heals all wounds. That may be true in theory, but in practice, when you leave it like that, it will start attracting bad things. Just like the physical would do that will attract flies. This one will attract flies, in quotes, in the name of bad relationships, divorce and separations. It will attract addictions. It will attract you becoming a person who mistreats other people. And there are many other differences, and I want to ask Dedan to add.
Yeah, just before he adds, I'm just, again, thinking about the language that people use in referring to matters of the heart, especially when it comes to the wound side. People say that my heart is bleeding, right? And of course, a very common one is that you broke my heart, as if like it's a bone broke. It's like, so that language, again, the language of being wounded is just more like the physical wound. And that image is really quite vivid. And Reverend Dedan, maybe you can also now, tell us how a person who is wounded behaves.
Okay. Thank you very much. As you have rightly said, it is just the same, and the expressions that you use, you've broken my heart, I'm bleeding and all that. Just the same way we do in the physical, it happens to us also in the heart. And just to add, before I answer your question, Gladys has expounded and explained so many things. And also to add on that is that it can take time. She has alluded to that. It takes time. Just the way you get hurt, you don't get healed immediately. You have to go through the process. You've got to go to the hospital. They have to put some, spirit, clean it, and use all the chemicals they do. The same applies even to those hearts of the heart. You have to go to the right people for you to get treatment. And so it will not happen over time. It will not happen at once. It will take some time. And just as, the severity of wounds are different. Some get healed within, a week. You're done with it. Some a month, some maybe a year, some even go up to 10 years. It will take time as you go through the process. And then...
just another interesting thing is how when you compare the physical wound and the heart wound, how the phrase time heals all wounds doesn't quite apply. It's quite enlightening there. Just go ahead, yes.
And another thing I would want to say is that when a physical wound heals, it leaves a scar. And we have many scars on our bodies. And Paul even said that, I have scars of, what I went through because of Jesus Christ. So when we get hurt, when we get injured, when we get cut, it heals. But after it heals, it leaves a scar. The same thing applies to, the wounds of the heart. That, yes, you have been healed. Yes, it's no longer painful, it's no longer hurting, but it's there. You can see what was left. You can see that scar. And that scar may be, it's the relationships that you'll have. Some of the things that you go through will remind you that I went through this and I need to be careful. Times even you get, jitters and you feel, I wouldn't want to go through that kind of an experience again. So it will leave a scar, and people have scars, but it finally gets healed. So you have asked, how can you know that a person has been injured, in the heart? Yeah, that's a good question. When we look around, we see people, the way they behave, you'll see people are very angry, very, very angry. They are complaining all the time. Yes, I know we get angry, we complain, but there is an extent that it goes that you see now, this is not normal. There is a problem here. So this is what we call in our trauma healing that it brings, you relieve that situation, you relieve it. It's like you live again. You remember the things the way it happened, you know. And you will find people talking about the challenges they've gone through, you know. If someone is being maybe battered, you know, they might keep on talking about it. Or if they are being mistreated in some place, they'll talk about it so much, and you will realize that this person has a problem. So they keep on talking about it. And talking about reliving, we do get dreams, you know. I've been involved in quite some, you know, bad experiences. Like one time we were attacked by thieves where I was staying. And it really did something in me. You know, it affected me so much. I could not sleep at night. You know, I would just think that we are being attacked again by the thieves. And you know, for a long time, maybe a year, I stayed there. I could not sleep. I preferred maybe sleeping during the day because at least at that time I would think I'm a bit safe so that I can be awake during the night. So you have those things repeating themselves. If it is at night, you have nightmares, you have dreams, you know. And I've seen people who have been in those kinds of situations like soldiers. You will find them reacting. Even that thing is not happening. They're not in the war, but they're always, it comes to them every now and then. So you relive that, talk about it, you dream about it, and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that is coming out, because we all live this life, Gladys, it means that all of us have wounds. Either wounds that are scars or wounds that are still healing. And you've mentioned marriage a number of times. And sometimes when people are getting married, they usually major in other conversations like money, you know, in-laws, you know, things like that. But I can't remember having a wounds conversation. You get, what are your wounds? Because sometimes you start blaming people for the way they behave, and start maybe correcting them and blaming them for that they should change this way. But really, it's coming from a different place. You know, I mean, the place of a wounds conversation, when for people who are either preparing to get married or people who are already married.
That's a good, very good point. I've often wondered, why don't people get that into the premarital counseling so that we are getting two people who have been healed, even if they have scars, now they can be able to relate with one another. So they will not relive the experience of what they went through. Because if that is not done, every time that these people, after the honeymoon period, when they continue like that, whenever you hear somebody asking for money, you'll be thinking about just the same way my father used to do. And you can actually respond the same way your mother used to respond. And I think it's a good recommendation. It should be part and parcel. Trauma healing should be part and parcel of what happens during premarital counseling.
Yeah, very important, very insightful there.
Yeah.
And staying with the way the wounds of the heart compare with the physical wounds, we know that there are some lifetime conditions. No, there are some physical conditions which you have to live with. And that's why I would ask you, Gladys, I mean, how do you know that a wound of the heart is really serious?
Thank you. And but before I get there, I just want to first go back to what is the behavior? How do we know that somebody is wounded? Reverend Dedan has spoken about reliving the experience. And we had that, a lot of that during the COVID season, because people who are reliving the experience are thinking about what happened to them day and night, and therefore they are not able to concentrate. And therefore, when we sent back children to school, they couldn't even hear what the teacher is saying. The same thing happened to congregations. You have maybe wounded people in your congregation. You are trying to put across the word of God, but none of them is hearing you because they are here rethinking, reliving, they are getting flashbacks about what happened to them. If you mention a word, very innocently, it touches on one of the things that they have gone through. They'll go saying that the pastor has abused them. And they don't want to come back to that church. Now they are offended times 2. They don't want to come. Secondly, people who have been wounded, they avoid any reminder of the trauma, of that thing that caused them. Any reminder. That the reminder could include people, places, or things. How do they avoid things? They do not want ever to see such a thing. For people who have been conned in the business, anybody who mentions about money, the antenna just goes up. I don't want any conversation about money. In fact, I've been calling people to attend trainings of trauma healing, and they say, tell me it's not multi-level marketing. I mean, people are already wounded. They have already had bad experiences. Anytime that you mention about something that has to be trained and it is free, they always go there. They also avoid people, such that if it is Reverend Dedan who has offended me, the first thing I do on my phone is look for his contact and block him. And I remove him from all the social medias so that I don't ever have to see him calling me, texting me, anything, commenting, because I'll be offended if he does something like that. Other people avoid the emotions. They don't want to feel the pain of that thing that happened to them. They would rather go loud that. People have changed names, their own names, so that they can go loud the pain. Instead of going through the pain, they want to go loud the pain. Others decide, instead of even just doing that, why don't I just go to alcohol and drugs or any other form of addiction so that I don't have to deal with myself?
You know, when you say people have changed names, and you continue with
Yes.
that really good, insightful line that you're taking us, I think about Naomi, who said, don't call me Naomi anymore, call me Mara.
Yes.
Because God has dealt bitterly with me. So people do change names. Naomi means really beautiful.
Yeah.
And she said, no, don't call me Naomi anymore. Call me Mara. And God has to do all the work for Naomi to really be affirmed that she's not Mara,
That
right?
you are
Yes.
Naomi. Yes, people change names. People drop names so that you are never going to remember that thing. And then what you are trying to do is avoid the emotions. You don't want ever to live with yourself. You cannot afford even 10 minutes with yourself alone. No, you don't want to reflect on that. So you go to drugs, you go to any form of addiction, anything that can stop you feeling that pain. You forget that when the Bible says in Psalm 23, that even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, the Lord is with me. You forget the presence of the Lord in your life. It is not your wish. It's simply that you have been traumatized.
Yeah.
And people have to be taken care of so that they can start remembering and seeing the presence of the Lord with them. And that thing, now we have reliving the event. We have now avoiding the reminders of trauma. And the last one is normally being alert all the time. You are always thinking a bad thing is about to happen. The same thing is about to happen. For example, if there has been an attempted rape case in your life, what you do is that you can get like 20 padlocks to be closing your door when you are sleeping. If something, even the weed, touches that padlock and it swings a bit, you are alert. Therefore, those people, they lose sleep, they cannot sleep well because they are always ready to defend themselves against the same thing that happened to them. And therefore, they start having headaches, stomach aches, chronic pain. They start having relationship problems. They start having all manner of physical problems. The problem that was in the inner heart now starts manifesting physically. And most of the sicknesses that we have seen people bring into primary health care, research shows that 25% of those people who seek primary health care, outpatient treatment, 25% don't have any physical problem. It is all in the heart, and then it's manifesting on the body.
You know, and it's you know, when you talk about moments like when you have gone through, let's say, a rape experience or attempt, and the wind blows and you feel like, you are alert all
Yeah.
the time. It reminds me of the sayings, wise sayings, like, once bitten, twice shy.
Oh, yeah.
Or once bitten, twice alert.
Yes.
And then one that it's pretty dramatic is that if you have once been bitten by a snake, when you see a string,
Yeah.
Looks like a snake.
it's just you're alert. You're like, which is quite interesting, real things. And I'm beginning to feel that this is not something for some people.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of whether you are wounded. It's a matter
Yeah.
of where you have been wounded. So it's really for us. And let's now I know I'd asked you that question, but let's bring it to Reverend Dedan about how a wound of the heart becomes really serious.
Yeah. We had talked about comparing it to the physical wound, and we have said that some, take so long. And how can you know that this one is so serious? We have talked about those signs and those things, the way they behave. So when it keeps on repeating itself, if it is this person has experienced a death in their family, maybe a brother died, and then after just a short time, maybe after 1 month, another brother dies. Or a parent dies, or a cousin dies. They're piling up, and they're becoming many. And this can be very overwhelming, and it can be very, very hard. So when things keep on happening so many times, then they mean that this is a serious case and needs a lot to be taken care of so much. And of course, there are other situations when a situation, you will realize that this is a big issue and especially things to do with death. Those ones, they are serious. They are serious. Yeah, they are serious if it's a loved one, because of course there are some people who die and life still goes on, as Gladys had said earlier there. Yeah, you grieve, you're sad, you feel bad, but it doesn't bring that trauma. But now there are those ones that have to do with death. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think it's what multiple injuries, or what you call like third-degree burns. I'm trying to use that, that heart and physical language. We need to go for a short break, and when we come back, we want to hear what the Bible teaches us about how to handle these kinds of feelings and experiences. Again, very insightful viewer. We are talking about how can wounds of the hearts be healed. And we have with us Gladys Kebue and also Reverend Dedan Kamau from the Bible Society of Kenya. And what an insightful conversation it is. So we're taking a short break. We'll be right back. This is Spotlight.
Treasure Hunt.
Treasure Hunt on Hope TV.
We bring you great content for boys and girls in this new season of Treasure Hunt.
Kisha za Simba shambani. Kisa cha Simba shambani.
Treasure Hunt, Saturdays at 9 a.m. only on Hope TV.
Thousands of people throng cities every single day looking for opportunities to make their lives better. They are employees, business owners, or just opportunity seekers desiring to have a breakthrough in their lives. Join me, DM Tanki, as we take this journey from the perspective of different successful entrepreneurs and corporate employees on Occupy Today, every Sunday from 8 p.m. exclusively on Hope TV. Look and live.
Hope TV is now available on GoTV Channel 103, Zuku Channel 873, Signet Channel 817, and StarTimes Channel 026. Enjoy our uplifting content and family-friendly programming anytime. Hope TV, you look and live.
viewer, welcome back. This is Spotlight, and we are engaging the matter, the question of how can wounds of our hearts be healed? And we are happy to have with us wonderful, insightful facilitators, teachers on trauma healing from the Bible Society of Kenya. And again, welcome Gladys, and also welcome Reverend Dayton. And I mean, as we were talking in the last session, you know, the wounds are very clear. And we'd want to hear from you, what does the Bible say in terms of how we should deal with these feelings of brokenness, feelings of being wounded? Yeah, Gladys.
Thank you. It's unfortunate that as Christians, we encourage people not to speak about their pain, to persevere, and just to keep them inside them. But the Bible teaches us something that is contrary to that. For example, Jesus himself, when he was about to go to the cross, he says, I'm in anguish, even unto death. He took a few of his people, John, Peter, and James, and he went aside with them, and he told them that, and he asked them, would you pray with me? And he went a distance and continued praying. If Jesus, who was God and he was man, who is God and is man, if he could confess to his friends, share with his friends that he's in anguish, who am I and who are you, to keep it as a secret inside you? He knows best, and we are looking to becoming like him every day. So we should become like him and not to share our problems. Secondly, when Peter was told by Jesus that before the cock crows tonight, you have denied me 3 times. When it happened and Jesus looked at him, he remembered, and he felt so guilty of having betrayed, of having failed. He felt so ashamed, and Peter wept. Our fathers, the apostolic fathers of our faith, he could cry about his problem. So it is okay to cry. It is in order. God has given us tears as a gift to clean that inner wood that is in us. And he says in Psalms 56, verse 8, that he holds our tears in a bottle. He collects it. You can imagine how much he values our expression of our pain in that way. Secondly, I want to give also about Jesus in Matthew 26 still, verse 75, when Lazarus had died, and when he looked at the people grieving their brother, he was deeply touched, and he wept. In fact, John 17:35 is said to be the shortest verse. And Jesus wept. And if Jesus, I repeat again, who is God and a man, could weep over the sorrow, the loss of Lazarus, who am I and who are you, not to express our pain in the same way, or to stop other people from expressing the pain in the same way. So Reverend Dedan can give some other examples.
You know, I'm even asking myself whether it's actually possible not to weep. You know, is it possible not to weep? I mean, when you think about it, because our culture says, men especially, you know, don't weep. Yeah. But is it possible not to? You know, that's just a comment. You can go ahead and respond.
Yeah. Now, that's the problem. We have been taught so by culture. All our cultures in Africa, they teach us that men should never cry. You should never express emotion. You should never show, in my language, they say even you don't show your wife your teeth. You should not express anything. That is what culture teaches. And Gladys has told us very well that Jesus wept. Jesus expressed his anguish when he was about to be crucified. He said, my heart is paining. I'm at the point of death. There are many, many people who in the Bible showed their emotion. And we say that that is right. In the book of Hannah, in the book of 1 Samuel, cried before God because she was in anguish. She had been mistreated so much by her co-wife. She had been mistreated and she felt so bad. She felt so belittled. And she went in the temple and prayed and cried soul out to God and told God, please hear me and come to me. And you know the prophet Eli, he came and said, hey, what are you doing in the church? Are you drunk? I said, no, I'm not drunk. I'm just expressing my heart to God. So it is good to express ourselves. We should express ourselves. The Bible is very clear on that. We should express ourselves. We should, for a moment, forget that we are African men who don't cry. Tunasema, jikaze kisabuni, jikaze kama mwanaume. No. When we are facing things, this is healing.
You know, when you're speaking about, I remember some time back attending a funeral, and a young boy had lost a sister. And I remember the boy was crying just beside the grave as the sister was being buried. And the father was telling the boy, was shaking the boy, don't cry.
Don't cry.
Men don't cry. And I remember witnessing that and feeling so much pain within myself because the boy was torn between crying for the sister and now the father who is telling him, you know, don't cry.
Yeah, so that is what our culture tells us, that we should not cry. And we grow that way. We keep things, you know, in our hearts and they keep on building up. It becomes a pressure and a pressure. And at one point, it will explode. You will not even be able to contain it, you know, because things are so many. Things are coming. You know, you have problems at your place of work. You have problems, you know, relational. Maybe you have issues with your wife. Maybe you have been abused. Many things are coming to us. And if you don't learn to express ourselves, then these things are going to be too many. And we are not going to be able to handle them. So we should express ourselves. We have talked about those examples. And I know there are so many others in the Bible. Even Job went through many things. And he expressed himself. And he, you know, he cursed even the day that he was born, isn't it? That is expressing himself and many other things.
You know, and it's a very, you know, you're opening up a whole area that is really worth discussing because once you give tears to the African, well, once you give back tears to the African man, you tear right at the culture.
Yeah.
You just tear at it. You're like, I mean, so what's a man supposed to be? If you've given him the permission to cry, you know? And, but when you, biblically, you can tell that even David, when you read the book of Psalms, he says, tears have become my food.
Yes.
You know, tears have become my food.
And he was a king.
And, and I also have seen public servants actually express themselves in forms. The late President Mwai Kibaki, at some point when he was listening to stories of young children and how they have struggled and seeing how they were being helped by a particular institution in this country, he wept. And it was the newspaper, like him, just weeping because he was feeling so much. I think it's just this week we've seen also a public servant who was fired. And he couldn't hold, he was choking as he speaks in public because he's an old man, senior in every way, but allowing the choking, the expression to happen even in public. Quite a bit there, and I think we need to engage that more and give the African man a human heart, you know, because sometimes the African man is sometimes going against what is human, right? Which is really something we need to talk about. And now people are asking, Gladys, how do we help people? You know, how do we help people now get over these experiences of pain? How do we support people do that?
Thank you. As I comment on this one, I want first to add to what you have just said. It is not possible to block one part of your feelings and leave the other one open. So every time that we have told men that they cannot cry, what we are doing is blocking the painful moments, but also blocking the happy moments. So that's why our men they don't know what makes a happy life. But we have to allow them to express both of them, happiness and also the painful moments. And we can help people, now coming to your question, we can help people by helping them to express. In trauma healing, what we say is that you can do it on one-on-one, but mostly in this program, we like doing it in groups. we bring about up to a maximum of 12 people. They don't have to have the same problem, but they have problems because, as we said from the beginning, suffering is universal. You don't have to do anything to get into trouble. Jesus said, you just continue living in this world, you get trouble.
Yeah.
So you just have to continue living and trouble will come to you. So you just put about 12 people, and then you make sure that this is a safe place for them to express. A safe place in that people are free to express their feelings and not be shamed about expressing their feelings. People are free to have the time to cry, to share their deepest secrets, because secrets are the ones that kill. So you give them time to do that. And if this group has probably mothers who have children, somebody has to take care of the children so that the mother can fully participate in this. And again, you don't put people who cannot casually talk to one another. For example, you don't put parents with the youth. The sharing will not be very okay. You put the youth together and you put the older people together. If women cannot talk where men are, you put the men together and you put the women together. If pastors cannot share with the parishioners, you put the pastors alone and the parishioners alone, so that everybody has that opportunity to tell their story. And listening to those stories is what brings healing upon those people. It is what I call in the comparison, expressing the pain. Name the pain. We normally say when people are preaching, you name it and claim it. In terms of pain, we say you name it to tame it. It will no longer have control over you. So that is what we do in small groups, which we call healing groups.
Okay, so expressing yourselves, and you can do it one-on-one or in a group. And when you think about that as a way of healing, how long does it take for one to really open up? Because sometimes the wounds are so maybe deep that a person may not exactly want to open up, either to one-on-one or even in a group. Yet they will not heal until they
must
open up.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's not going to be automatic that the moment you start talking, excuse me, the moment you start talking with someone that they are going to open up. But in our program, we do it in such a way that, yeah, it will take time, it's step by step. You know, you might, if it is it's usually a 5-day program. So maybe in the first day, people are still looking at each other, they don't know who this is and all that. But as time goes by, people start opening up. When they see that this is a place they can, is a safe place, these are people we can trust. And when we are starting it, we talk about confidentiality, that we are not going to talk about what you're saying some outside of this place. So as time goes by, I remember one time we took this program to prison, to Thika prison. And the first day was very hard. Even the second day was very hard. But I want to tell you, as we progressed, people just started opening up. Those inmates started just talking about what was deep in their hearts. So it might take some time. It might take, an hour or even a whole day. But if it is properly done, people are going to open up. They are going to share what is in their hearts. Yes.
Okay. And I think this requires a lot of listening. Lots of listening.
Exactly.
And many people are not good listeners. I mean, they're not good listeners. And they think that the moment they listen, there's too much trouble. Like, I have no time for other people's troubles.
Yeah.
And please talk to somebody else. I don't think I can handle it.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, let me just stay in the frontier of the home, because everyone comes from a home. And I think that is the first place when you talk about healing and expressing oneself. It's the home. And how would you how does one in the home front become a good listener to your children, a good listener to your spouse, maybe, so that that expression can begin to happen there?
Thank you. That's a good question. It is very true that people don't know. It's not that they don't like listening, they don't know how to listen. So they listen to provide an answer. They listen to respond. But when you are listening to hear, you listen for the person to express himself or herself. So you listen with the questions. Many people who have those, they have traumatizing trauma in their hearts. They are just waiting for somebody to listen to them. And therefore you ask them to tell you their story by asking them the question, yes, tell me what happened. And you wait and listen carefully, without fidgeting, without showing them that you don't have time, without interrupting, you just listen. And after they have told you this story about what happened, if they are able to continue telling you the story, you continue listening and showing that you are listening just the same way you are showing that you are listening to me. And you continue showing that you are listening. But if they break down, you give them time so that they can be able to continue with the story. You can adjourn the situation, the session, and then come again and start the story from where you left. And as they tell the story, you've got to continually connect it because healing starts from the emotions. So ask them, how did it make you feel? When that happened, how did it make you feel? So that they can understand what they are feeling is as a result of what happened to them. And so that you do not assume that you now understand what they are going through. When they have told the whole story, they have told you what they felt, and you have continually responded to that by asking them, tell me more about that. How did it make you feel? Finally, you've got to put a need to that by asking the person to now name what was the hardest part for you. That's the last question you ask them. What was the hardest part for you? That way, it will come from them, because the Bible tells us it is the Spirit in you who knows what is in you. So they will be able to tell you, I felt like I wanted to revenge. I felt so small. I felt so dirty. They are able to name it and tame it.
Okay. I mean, healing, the home is a healing front, right? And that just domestic place, if it is a workplace or just giving that listening ear. And I think everyone, because each one of us is wounded, then we must make time for healing others as well by learning how to listen. But sometimes you are a lay person, you're listening, you have no real response, and you feel, hey, this person may need a professional support. How do you assess and say, now, this is beyond me now. I need to call in a therapist to be able to attend to them. You need to go through trauma counseling. How do you tell that? How do you assess that?
Most of the things that people go through, they just need a listening ear. You just need to sit with that person, give them your time, your undivided attention, let them know that there is someone who is listening to them. And I want to assure you that if you do that, it is going to bear a lot of positive fruit. But of course, there are some situations that are very hard, especially, like the ones you had asked earlier, how, you can know that it is overwhelming, it is too much. We said when you have too much things happening, it is about death, it is about violence. Yes. Now, if this person, you've talked to them, and they are not responding or they are not in a position to go with you and, to share and to respond to what you're saying, then yes, at that time you will realize maybe this person needs to go for further
professional help.
Yes.
Now, you can also guide us, like some people don't know what professional help is. They know it exists, but what Gladys, if I want to now refer someone to professional help, what are those places that, what does professional help look like? Whom do I access? Whom do I refer this person to? Tell us about professional help.
Thank you. In many cases, when people are asking for a counselor, they actually don't know whom they are asking for. But it's some good news is that the Mental Health Act has already been passed. It's an act in Kenya, including the amendments that were being done. And therefore, most of the hospitals, they have some people who are doing trained people who are doing counseling. So you can refer people to any level 3 hospital. You can refer people to, even for professional counseling at any CITAM assembly, they will be able to be given counseling. And in CITAM, they are given free of charge. Absolutely, you don't even have to be a Christian. I just come for counseling. And I also learned last night that Nairobi Chapel is also doing that. And I pray that all the other churches can start the same program because Christ's likeness starts in the church. And that is where all the solutions are. It is at the cross of Jesus Christ. When he said it is finished, that's what he meant. There are other people who require medical treatment. Some of the heartwoods, they require medical treatment like depression. Refer people to hospitals, to clinics, and any doctor, any nurse can be able to help them on that.
Okay. Maybe you want to add, Reverend Dedan, about professional help.
Professional help, yes. I don't want to add so much. What Gladys has said is quite sufficient, that when you look and see that this case needs to be referred, then you need to refer it immediately so that they can get the help that they can get. Yeah.
Okay. Now, viewers would want to really appreciate your wonderful interactions, and thank you, Bethy Bethlehem, for your appreciation of this session here on Spotlight about healing heart wounds. Josephine Nyambane is saying sometimes the wounds are in multiples and very diverse, just like what you've been talking about.
Yeah.
Sometimes happening at the same time or at different times. You know, this is just a whole mix of being wounded. Dealing with them in a group, is it really effective? That's what Josephine is asking.
Yeah, dealing with them in a group is very, very effective, and that's what we find that works most of the time, because when you come in a group, you can see that there are other people who have situations and problems like yours, and even as you interact, as you listen, it will come to you that this thing is quite solvable, it's quite doable. Unlike when you're alone, although even being alone, one-on-one has its place, but the group one also works very, very well.
Okay.
Even for that person that Nyambane is talking about that has many problems. Yes.
All right. Would you want to add to Josephine's question, Gladys?
Yes. And that is in response to what you had asked about how do you know whether a case is serious. When somebody comes to the group sessions and you have those multiple things, a mixture of everything, of feelings, more awareness is created in you. And in every lesson, we normally say serious cases will look like when the emotions are not going down, when the person is not able to handle themselves, like they are not waking up from their bed, they are not eating well, they do not know how to take care of themselves very well. Now we refer them to the professional help, to the counseling, to the doctor, to people who can be able to help them further than just in the groups. She's absolutely right that some problems will have to be referred, because trauma healing does not replace counseling. It is only a grassroots way of handling the problems, because 75% of these traumas that people get, it has been shown that they will remission on themselves within a given time. So trauma healing escalates and shortens that period that you need to heal.
All right. Yeah. I'm getting that even if a person does not feel comfortable then to trust people in a group, or even in the family, they don't trust anyone, then they can look for this professional help, and they'll be listened to there by the people who have been trained specifically to listen to stories and also bring or facilitate healing for them. Yes. Now, it's very important for me to ask this question also, and you can answer, both of you, starting with Reverend Dedan. How can one be equipped to become an effective listener?
It's by, you need to be told what you're supposed to do. Like many people will listen, but they don't listen for healing. They just want to listen so that they can, give the answers, as Gladys has said earlier. But when we train you about who is a good listener, a person who is listening with all the concentration on you, a person who, is empathetic, is feeling with you, a person who is kind, a person who is not just out there to give you quick solutions and quick fixes for your problem. That is a good listener. And you have asked, how can you be? This will come with doing it many times, with practice. After you have been taught, after you've been told who a good listener is, and then you start listening, with time, and by God's grace, you're going to be able to be a good listener. And all of us can be good listeners.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Gladys.
Yes, thank you. How you can be equipped. Bible Society of Kenya, together with other partners in Kenya, we do trauma healing training. We call it initial equipping. This program can be done both physically. Physically, it takes 5 full days, from morning 8:30 all the way to 4:30. So we do 3 lessons per day, and by the end of that period, we certify you as somebody whom we can now mentor through practice, and you become a trauma healer. On the other hand, we have so many people, like teachers, because of the packed program that they have been going through post-COVID, that they cannot be able to come, and they have 5 days allocated just for that training. We have been doing it on online, and we do the 15 sessions, every day 1 lesson. That is about 3 weeks, Monday to Friday, for 2 hours every day. And after that period, now we start mentoring them, either physically or online, as to how to continue doing that. So far, we have trained over 400 teachers on that, and we are still continuing, and the program is still learning, and they are doing a very perfect job outside there as trained people. So that's how we are doing it, and after they have done the practice, we normally say this is a 3-step model. We now invite you for advanced training so that you can become a trainer of those people who feel called. The churches can set their teams, groups can set their teams, and even individuals can join the online class. Okay. That is how you can be equipped.
All right, fantastic. I like the fact that Bible Society of Kenya is already doing a lot about trauma healing and training people. Yes. So that if you're a church and you want you to be guided in this area of trauma healing, Bible Society of Kenya is offering that empowerment. If you're an individual person, you also want to be empowered on how to be a facilitator in trauma healing as well. Bible Society of Kenya is a platform, a space, an institution that is really working hard to make sure that we have as many people, as many churches as possible, so they can be able to address the matter of trauma in our congregations and in our families and in our communities. That was a fantastic, insightful session. Thank you very much, Gladys. Thank you very much, Reverend Dedan. Wonderful, wonderful insights. And we've learned, and I'm sure the viewers as well have learned quite a lot, even from the responses we've received. And keep up the good work at the Bible Society of Kenya.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, viewer, will be continuing again with this series of trauma healing brought to us by the Bible Society of Kenya. Very insightful today, just knowing that we are all wounded, but at the same time, we are all healers if we are able to listen. So it's just a very important thing for us to know that there is a way. You yourself, yes, could be wounded, but there's a way for you to find healing and not just find healing, but become also healing to others. May God help us. This has been Spotlight. Thank you for watching.